Hey guys, I'm Gary, or the ShapeH31 Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Themed video. This time, I'm going to be doing another top 10 best duels, and that would be from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Now, like the original series, GX has a lot of nostalgic value for me, although without that nostalgia, it really doesn't hold up as well as I hoped it would. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, it's just GX is probably one of my least favorite series with hindsight, even though I loved it as a kid. Now, as an adult, it doesn't hold up as well as I hoped it would have. And it's just, again, one of my least favorite series. But with that said, it did have some really good duels, some good, some decent, some possibly amazing. Which ones? Only one way to find out. My top 10 favorite duels of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Number 10. Atticus vs. Night Shroud. Now, GX didn't really have too many characters that I actually liked, but one of them was always Fubuki, or Atticus in the dub. He was hilarious, and overall just a really fun character, but he really didn't do much, and here we finally have him do something with Night Shroud and Truman picking off the students of Academy one by one, with Fubuki watches his own sister Asuka basically die in his arms, as well as other friends die and be erased from his memories before him. After being a pawn of Night Shroud himself, he doesn't care about that. All he wants is to avenge his sister and friends because now he doesn't have anything to lose, since he's already lost everything. In better words, almost everything, before it's revealed that Night Shroud was in possession of Yusuke Fujiwara, who is actually one of his friends. Then he regains resolve to at least save his friend from an evil force, and it's really disappointing to see that their duel ending in a stalemate was a hallucination, and Fubuki is defeated rather easily. Still a fun duel. Number 9. Cyrus vs. Makoto. Cyrus was a character I never really cared about. He was more or less served as Judai's would-be right-hand man. He was more of a man-damsel in distress. He never really stood out aside from being that timid kid forever in the shadow of his much cooler older brother. With that said, this is why this duel for me is one of the best in the series. Cyrus, whenever he did duel, was never bad per se. He could pull off some good moves and even held his own with his brother during his Hellkaiser gimmick. And here we are, after taking his brother's place who was still suffering from heart issues. He showed his growth by taking his brother's place in a duel with a combination of both their decks to defeat Makoto that made Kaiser himself proud and happily admit that Cyrus actually surpassed him and passed down his own deck to him, believing he'd make better use of it than he could. 8. Jaden and Alexis vs. Kenson and Ray. Now, one of the less serious duels of the final season of GX, and it was one of the final stepping stones to bring Judai's character development full circle, as well as bringing development to his relationship with Asuka full circle. Jaden at the start of the series was a happy-go-lucky kid without a care in the world who dueled for fun, nothing more until season 3 where he was just broken by the world with his friends dying left and right because of him, and succumbing to his evil past life and overall really forgetting how to have fun while dueling. Because the one thing he loved to do most became a chore with him, basically fighting for his life all the time. For half of the final season, he was butting heads with Asuka because of how much he drastically changed, and once she had enough of his new attitude and downright refusal to cooperate with her, during the couples tag tournament, she finally calls him out on it and he actually reflects on how much he really has changed. It begins a road to getting back to his old self. The duel itself is really one that's really fun to watch, but his story aspect and interaction between Jaden and Alexis really is what makes it shine. Number 7. Jaden vs. Professor Cronus in a rematch. Another duel from the final season of GX. With graduation rapidly approaching, Cronus is stricken with grief from the realization that his students are about to graduate and he doesn't want them to go. Cronus as a character is a really interesting one who actually does get some of the most development in GX. At first, he's a bitter, despiteful teacher looking down on lower-class students and cartoonishly trying to get Judai expelled. Then by the end, he grows into genuinely care about his students and doesn't want them to go, even if it is for the best. And that's what it truly means to be a teacher. A good teacher learns as much from their students as their students learn from their teacher. The duel itself has some good back and forth action, with Kronos bringing out a fusion of his ancient gear monsters, something we really haven't seen at that point in time. And the ending with Judai defeating him with Flame Wingman, like he did in the first episode, it speaks really beautiful. 6. Jaden vs. Night Shroud. The penultimate duel of GX with Judai-kun facing off the root of all evil, darkness, or Nitro in the dub itself. After everyone has been assimilated into the world of darkness, it's up to Jaden to stop him. There really isn't a deep philosophy to this duel that speaks poetry by any means. It's on this list for simply how entertaining it was. Jaden fighting darkness itself to save the world and his friends with only Yūgiō by his side against Nitro's very questionably broken traps is a very fun duel to watch, and in the end, defeats his curse with the bonds he shares with his friends, and defeats Nitro himself with calling upon elemental hero Divine Neos, the joint power of the bonds of the Neospatians, cards that he himself. Number 5. Jaden and Yohan vs. Nitro, or Fujiwara. Even though this duel is technically a triple threat match, I still look at it as a 2-on-1 duel because even though Jaden and Yohan do attack each other a couple of times, it was part of his strategy to accumulate damage to transfer it over to Nitro. We have a duel worthy of being a boss duel in GX, and really, this should have been the final battle. With Nitro, as those clear monsters seem a lot more broken than the actual deck Nitro used. Jaden and Yohan again show off their excellent teamwork and how deep their bond is, with Yohan being able to resist temptation against Nitro to turn against Judai, and work very well together with him accordingly, then sacrifice himself in the end to help Judai-kun survive and so he can bring out Rainbow Dragon to bring out Rainbow Neos and defeat Nitro before the actual final battle. And also, a little fun fact, Honest is voiced by Takanori Hoshino, who would later go on to voice the King Jack Atlas himself in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. And Number 4. Jaden vs. Yūgiō. After being utterly destroyed by the events of Season 3, Judai finally confronts Yūgiō, the true culprit of it all, to purge Shakler from existence and hopefully restore the lives of his friends. We get more insight on Yūgiō to ask why Shakler deconstructed Judai. Rather than a spiteful grudge, but it was rather just the result of a huge misunderstanding of epic proportions and a severely warped definition of the word love. Yūgiō tortured Judai to the extreme because he failed to uphold a promise he made to Shakler in a past life, as if he'd be able to remember something like that in the first place. And Judai sent Yūgiō into a much-needed timeout in space, hoping she would be mellowed out from insanity, but she became even more insane after being exposed to the light of ruin. The duel itself was a great one with nail-biting suspense, good plays from both sides, and was driven by a rather interesting story. As far as boss duels go in the series, this is definitely one of my favorites, although the ending seems a little hokey. Being Judai-kun just forgives Yūgiō just like that and obliges to Shakler's request. I'm a person with a strong moral code who believes in forgiveness and second chances, but after all the crap Yūgiō pulled, I don't even think Yūgiō deserved to. Number 3. Jaden vs. Kaiser. A GX classic that's almost guaranteed to make a top 10 best duels of GX list. It's the end of Judai-kun's first year of Duel Academy, Kaiser's last year, and for his graduation duel, the only person he deems worthy of dueling him is Jaden. After being defeated by Kaiser early on in the series, Jaden questions how can he beat someone who's perfect by all means like Kaiser, and the only way he can do that is to be perfect himself and duel like Kaiser. But that doesn't bode well for him in the first half of their duel, because Kaiser is no more than disgusted with Jaden's dueling, and easily tells that he's not being himself. Fubuki sums it up perfectly. Kaiser duels intuitively, while Jaden duels instinctively. And once Jaden gets his act together, he proves to be more than capable of holding his own with Kaiser, in one of the best rivalry matches of the series. And as we all know, the crowning moment of awesome and highlight of the duel was how they both draw on Battle Fusion at the same time, and used both cards along with other cards to increase the attack of their monsters to astronomical levels, which was just insane. But then Jaden ends the duel in a stalemate. Classic. Number 2. Kaiser vs. Yūgiō. After hitting rock bottom in his dueling career, Kaiser undergoes a drastic personality change, becoming Hell Kaiser, beginning to utilize a Cyber Dark Dragon deck, which caused his health to be affected pretty badly by it, and with his death around the corner, he wanted one more opponent to give him his final great duel, and he thoroughly found it with the Yūgiō-possessed Yohan. Kaiser was always one of the few characters of GX I actually liked, being one of my favorites overall. He was an awesome character before, but here he just steals the spotlight, bringing out classic Cyber Dragon variants to deal with the advanced Crystal Beast, to bringing out Cyber End Dragon itself to go head-to-head with Rainbow Dark Dragon. We have some amazing back and forth actions from both Kaiser and Yūgiō, but the true highlight of the duel wasn't the duel itself, but rather Kaiser and his resolve. He's already accepted his death and he has absolutely nothing to fear, but as he says, he's a dead man with no future, so he doesn't have anything to lose, but everything to gain. And Yen tries to save Johan, and at the same time make a statement and engrave Cyber and Dragon as an iconic figure in the universe, and he does do so at the same time make Yūgiō itself crap his pants with his awesomeness, by summoning Cyber and Dragon with a whopping 16,000 attack points. But in the end, Kaiser chose to go out on his own terms, being done in by the card that made him what he was. The duel itself was great, but all eyes were on Kaiser from start to finish. Now, before I unveil my number one pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Duels I do enjoy, but just fell short of making this list. And of course, number one, I agree with the consensus that number one is Jaden vs. Yuki. The final duel of GX, with a duel we all knew was coming since the very beginning of GX, with Judai facing off with our original protagonist, Yūgiō himself. Now that his time at Duel Academy has come to an end, he quietly leaves the island only to find Yugi, who somehow sends him back in time to duel his younger self to get back something he lost. I understand the story, but I don't understand how Jaden was sent back in time, but whatever. The important thing was him to get back something he lost, and that was Jaden along the way of the series forgot how to have fun while dueling. And he does get that back being excited by facing off with his hero. And he learns a very important lesson. Even though he's matured into a capable adult, he doesn't have to stop having fun. The duel itself wasn't bad. We have some good back and forth action. Despite Yugi having the upper hand for essentially the entire duel, Judai actually does manage to put up enough of a fight, and to a point where the Yugi decides he wants to take over to have his fun with Jaden. And Yugi decides that a god is enough to be a worthy opponent to fight Jaden, thus calling out Slifer the Sky Dragon. The duel itself was great, but that really wasn't a highlight. Just the sheer fact alone that Yugi and Jaden are actually dueling each other is enough to make this duel awesome and a must-watch. To be honest, truth be told, I don't really think this duel actually happened, but rather it was a dream of sorts because, with a lot of factors, Jaden dueling Yugi doesn't make much sense. You can't help but ask questions like, how did Yugi send him back in time when he didn't have any magic powers without the Millennium Puzzle? It just doesn't make a lot of sense and raises a lot of questions, to be honest. And there you have it, folks. Those are my top 10 favorite duels of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. What are your favorite duels? Let me know down there in the comment section below. I'm Gary, or the Shape H31 Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Stay gold, everyone. Bang! I got one more series left before I'm done with Yu-Gi-Oh! Countdown videos, and you all know what's coming next. Stay tuned for that.